Tonight, how do you build a country from nothing? David Jackson takes you to war-torn Afghanistan, the new hopes, the new freedoms, the age-old challenges. Journey into the heart of danger. Tonight at 11, only on ABC-7.
Mark, that's right. It may seem strange to be discussing the LA Zoo in connection with terror and danger in Afghanistan, but it turns out there is quite a connection between the zoo here and the zoo in Kabul, Afghanistan. The zoo here in Los Angeles has been helping out the zoo in Kabul in recent months. That's because the zoo over there has become a symbol for just how horrific the Taliban regime could really be. The city of Kabul, Afghanistan has not been safe for human habitation for 24 years. And that is coming up tomorrow night on Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock as we continue our journey inside Afghanistan. The wars have ended, but as we found out, there are still a number of ways to be killed.
It's not very often you see war zones you would describe as totally destroyed, but this is one of them. There's any doubt about that. And we'll do our best to avoid mines that are said to still be here. Hopefully that won't be our problem.
They seem to crawl right out of the bullet holes in Kabul. All of a sudden, they're everywhere. Most of them destitute orphans being raised on the streets by older children.
How you doing?
How are things? What are you going to cry about? Huh? What? Are you all right? A scar across your face? Afghanistan has never kept track of an official death toll, but 24 years of war has left thousands of dead and thousands of orphans, as you see, out in the streets. The road has been bombed into oblivion for the past 24 years. It is so rutted, we had 7 flat tires. It is, in fact, so dangerous, I had to travel in Afghan hat and scarves to not draw attention to me or our car. When we were stopped by gunmen, it was up to our exceptional interpreter to convince the people we were not American journalists. The television gear was hidden away. It was a heart-stopping trip. But 13 hours later, we reached Pakistan.
Hi.
Thank you. Then we pushed over the border. Our interpreter being stopped right at the gate.
Yeah.
My friend, thank you.
Thank you. And say goodbye to Dave, too.
I will.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
Pakistan's military provides an armed escort from there. It's a relief to escape the noise and danger of Afghanistan. Well, Ellen, life is slowly coming back together here. We've sort of updated everybody each night almost on the ongoing drama over the electricity. It's been up and down and up and down. Right now it is up, and we certainly hope that it stays that way, but it probably won't. David, a lot to take a look at this morning. It is a quiet, rather cool morning here in Baghdad. 4 o'clock in the morning, of course. We have our usual round of small arms gunfire that we hear occasionally throughout the course of the evening and throughout the course of the day, certainly here. That has continued around a 24-hour day, but nothing serious, as they say right here, and we certainly hope that's the case. Small arms exchanges are still continuing in Mosul throughout the past 24 hours, and that seems to be continuing more so maybe than it is even here in Baghdad. This has been a long, long process just to try to get the simplest of things put back together. The fact is the power grid is supposed to be intact and easily remanufactured, if you want to call it that, from just a very, very few changes at a power plant. And all they need is natural gas that has to come down from the Kirkuk area where the oil fields are in order to restart that. That sounds like a simple process, but it hasn't been simple because it's taken weeks now to try to get it back together. And they may take yet another week before they get it finally completed. David, a quiet night here in Baghdad, actually a quiet early morning here, and that's something of a pleasant surprise. We've been talking about the fact that the gunfire incidents have been diminishing over the past couple of days and have essentially come to a halt. We haven't heard anything over the last 10 or 12 hours, and that has been a much more pleasant environment to operate in here in Baghdad. It is still considered the most dangerous place in Iraq for the U.S. forces. The small town of Tikrit is Saddam's hometown and a place where Ba'ath Party loyalists still support the dictator. It also has the largest number of palaces per capita in the country. This is what Saddam's original home looks like. The Army has found laser-guided missiles, thousands and thousands of tank shells and huge artillery shells, boxes of hand grenades. There were mortar shells, all of them brand new and many still packed in the box. More than 3,000 Southern California families have uprooted and moved to Israel, many of them living near here in the area around Jerusalem. Some of them are Palestinians now living in the West Bank, but all of them are gambling, hoping that somehow this area can have a peaceful future.
I want to be a martyr.
You want to die?
Yeah, I want to die. Just for the holy places and my country and my family, for everything in this land.
There you have some family members willing to die right there in the West Bank, others anxious to head back to the Southland. But even those from California now understand exactly how hot the feelings run in the Middle East. Now tonight, coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll show you the Arabs and the Israelis as they try to envision a peaceful future. Everybody wants it, but exactly what is the key? You'll hear what the Southlanders in Israel think tonight at 6. Now, I've been in earthquakes before. We just went through 64 of them in 3 days in El Salvador. That is incredible. 5 of them big, like cracking the walls while you watch the earthquake happening right in front of you there. It's amazing geologic activity. We'll have more on that coming up tonight at 6 o'clock and tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, where we visit with a special group of Southland volunteers down in El Salvador.
A total of 60 people were killed right here in Guadalupe. 2 of them worked right here at the funeral parlor. But now it's a matter of rebuilding this town, and it's getting direct assistance from the city of Los Angeles from a source you might not expect.
You can see by the line up here just to get water and some rice how desperate the people are that have nowhere else to turn other than from handout foodstuffs that they can get from relief organizations. Pretty good? You happy with that? That's good.
The government's doing what it can. The El Salvadoran government does not have a lot of money, and it really can't do a great deal. The Tzu Chi organization, along with all the other organizations that are there in place, are doing the bulk of the work right now, it is fair to say, and they hope to have basic structures in place for the people who have lost their homes within a period of 1 month. You heard them mention that it starts to rain there shortly after this, in April and the beginning of May. They have to have something ready by that time, because you really would face yet another disaster.
So John Gregory has snow in Gorman. Miriam has rain. David Ono found rain. We found nothing at all but clear skies and very cold temperatures, and a lot of people up here wondering when it's going to hit. Live at Big Bear, David Jackson, ABC-7 Eyewitness News. Mark, back to you. If you see the road behind me right here, you'll notice that it's not plowed. If you're familiar with Big Bear, this is the road that goes through the small downtown area here, and they've done their best to try to keep it clear. We have heard snow plows running down on the main road that runs up into Big Bear, so presumably all night long they've been doing the best they can. We're going to take a close look at that between now and 6:30 this morning, when we'll be able to bring you a full account of just how easy or how difficult it'll be for people to come up here if, in fact, those are your plans. But the snow is coming, and it is coming hard, and everybody is very happy. Live at Big Bear, except for me. David Jackson, ABC-7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Hey, David, do you live by the philosophy real men don't wear earmuffs? I mean, come on.
This morning I do, yeah. I should probably pick something up between now and 6:30 if I get a chance. Good morning. I wanted to personally thank both of you for your clothing suggestions of an hour ago at 5:30. I didn't know you could be this comfortable out in the snow, and I am completely comfortable at this point. But it's really a lot of snow coming down, and they are going to have a lot of water content too, because this is a heavy, damp snow, and it's really exactly what they needed up here. And these goggles are exactly what I needed, by the way, and I wanted to thank you once again for your outstanding suggestion. The technology behind these, you know, is remarkable. I didn't realize they were this comfortable and this nice. I could stand out here all day long.
Well, you know what? We might just have you do that.
Laura fire still burning out of control here in Los Alamos, New Mexico, although it has broken up into several areas. Some over to this side, over behind me, and then there is some behind the ridge line, as you see right here. This is the area near the Los Alamos National Laboratories, just behind those trees. That is federal land where sensitive nuclear material is stored. It is not threatened by this fire, but of course much of the remaining countryside and part of the town is, due to these very, very unpredictable winds. Took out more than 24 homes on this Los Alamos hilltop in the early morning hours this morning. It was during a time when firefighters could barely battle this blaze because their ground-based hoses were having such little effect in the hard winds that blew throughout the evening. Now, these winds have maintained a steady 30 to 40 miles an hour all afternoon today, and of course in the early morning hours today as well. We've had gusts over 60 miles an hour. I would equate it somewhat to a Santa Ana condition, but you'd have to call it Santa Ana's just about at their worst. It's very dry wind, and it has been, as we said in that piece, almost impossible to even try to contain this fire. Very difficult for the helicopters to fly. We'll have an update coming up at 5:30 tonight again on Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock. Live in New Mexico, David Jackson, ABC7 Eyewitness News. It certainly is, Laura. It was a very powerful, very spectacular volcanic event 20 years ago. Mount St. Helens going from a very quiet and really remote northwest peak to a mountain that in the state of Washington ended up capturing the entire world's attention. As you mentioned, I was here that day 20 years ago working for an ABC television station up in the Northwest and had a very close-up view of an incredible event. Last night at this time, it was wet, but really largely brown. Now it's, of course, a winter wonderland. It really is beautiful, but all in all, throughout the course of the evening tonight, it has been pretty tough going. No danger of it melting tonight. It is well below 32 degrees right now, and certainly we have no more snow about to fall. It's a clear night. We're starting to see stars out here, but it is a worry. There's a lot of snow on the ground, and if this should melt quickly, I think we would look for considerable runoff, and that could be the next reason that we find ourselves up here. Live at Running Springs, David Jackson, ABC7 Eyewitness News. Laura, back to you. Well, Laura, let me show you an absolutely incredible sight behind me right here. You are looking at a gigantic instant city. This is more than 200 pieces of firefighting equipment, more than 1,000 firefighters, all dropped into the wilderness out here to battle this huge Sequoia fire. Now, just behind the picture that you're looking at right now, tents are scattered throughout the wilderness here. Almost 1,000 firefighters are sound asleep right now, and I do mean sound asleep because many of them have been up for days fighting this fire. They are expected to go out onto the fire lines tomorrow. The wind is expected to pick up. Right now it's down, but it could be another tough day, only 30% contained. Live in Kennedy Meadows, David Jackson, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Hundreds of windows remain still broken out of the buildings here in downtown Los Angeles. This, of course, following the violence that followed that NBA victory on Monday night. And as we all know, the LAPD did hold back considerably from getting involved in any of this activity. Well, now an internal memo from the LAPD indicates that actually there were plans for officers to react.
Laura, very definitely ground zero right here. You can see behind me we still have a tree split in half that is folded over part of a mobile home right here. And if you look up in the tree, you still see parts of the aluminum siding here that have wrapped themselves around the branches. Everything's being cleaned up. The mobile home park people are working on this and working on it very quickly. In fact, they're right behind us right here putting some plywood up over some broken windows. But a lot of these mobile homes are still damaged beyond repair. Well, Harold, the Nazi lowriders, something of a shadowy organization, a white gang that was launched in the California prison system. Tonight, police up here in Hesperia are looking for one man believed to be a Nazi lowrider who they say allegedly committed a vicious hate crime. Well, Harold, it really is a tragic night tonight here in Arcadia. A 12-year-old boy being shot and killed in the house you see right here behind me, shot by another one of his middle school friends. Sheriff's investigators have been on the scene all day today, and tonight they are officially calling the shooting an accident. Well, it's been another tough 24 hours here, that's for sure, Leslie, and the work is continuing in New York City. They're not calling it a death toll, of course, as we've been reporting, but they are calling it a toll of the missing, as that number has now climbed to 5,097. Now, we've taken a look behind me, and you've seen kind of an overview for the first time today, that look from the air. My colleague Carlos Granda here with me now to talk a little bit more about some of those people that suffered personal losses and the tears that continue to flow in certainly the firehouses and many other homes here in the New York area, Carlos.
Absolutely, David.
Well, Laura, that's right. The LA City Fire Department sent an elite team in here of 66 members who are in a search and rescue mission. Of course, they are not very pleased with what's taken place inside there at the area that they consider now to be ground zero, the area where you see the smoke still coming out. They are working around the clock. They are working inside there in shifts of about 30 people at a time. Well, Mark, all you have to do is take a look at that mountain of smoldering metal behind me right there to really get a firm idea of exactly how horrendous this task is going to be here in New York City. Here we are at 2 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. Work obviously continuing around the clock, but as I mentioned, really looking closely at that gives you an idea of just why this is such a monumental task. Thousands of people trying to pull their lives back together, doing what they say is the best that they can. Live in Lower Manhattan, David Jackson, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
In just minutes, it's a city once bombed by U.S. warplanes, a place that holds the heart of communist Vietnam. David Jackson uncloaks the mysterious city most Americans have never laid eyes upon. Hanoi, Eyewitness News, Journey to Vietnam, next at 11.
Hanoi is about 1,000 miles north of Saigon, and it's about 1,000 miles behind Saigon when it comes to its economic development. It is really still a very communist city, and it is a place that has not established business ties with really anybody here in Southern California. As I found it earlier this month, it is in fact a very unusual place. And afterward, they turn to the ancient ritual of the bamboo water pipe. It's not even strong. It's pretty good. Let's hope this is all legal. Our relationship to Vietnam, of course, is bound to improve over the coming years, and that includes for the people who live here in Southern California, for the 300,000 Vietnamese who are here, principally in the Orange County area. It is a place that they will be very, very proud over the coming years to call home. Live in Little Saigon, David Jackson, ABC-7 Eyewitness News. Mark, Laura, everyone, back to you.
Cameraman J.R. Hall and I were among the very first outsiders to enter the scene of this long and bloody siege.
I think it is something of a miracle. That's true, Laura. That's what it feels like when you go inside that church, because when you take a look in there and see just how much there was to potentially destroy, I mean, even if you weren't careful inside that church, it's packed full of artifacts in every direction that you look. It is something of a miracle that that did not happen. Clearly somebody tried to steer clear of doing any real damage in there. Nevertheless, it looks upside down simply because those people were living in there for such a period of time. But according to the monks and the priests that we talked to inside the church, they think they'll be able to clean that up, get everything taken care of over a short period of time. They think they'll be ready by Sunday morning. They are anxious to begin services once again. Live in Jerusalem, I'm David Jackson. David, Laura, back to you.
Well, Laura and Harold, many people here in Colorado are just beginning to realize how bad this tragedy was today. I was actually told that over the past couple hours by at least half a dozen families who said it's taken them this long to really come to terms with the level of horror that took place inside this high school today. I also spoke a little bit earlier with some representatives from law enforcement who actually were inside the building, and they said they hesitate ever to speak about exactly what they saw as they went through the cafeteria and as they went through the library inside the school. Well, we also want to report that within the last hour they have found as many as 12 explosive devices inside the school, and those are presumed to be homemade pipe bombs that were made by the two students who carried out today's shooting. I did speak to a student who knew one of the two who had allegedly done this shooting, and when I had the opportunity to ask him why this took place, exactly what was behind it, he said, you don't have to look any further than today's date. He said 4/20 is the symbol in Colorado for a marijuana bust, and it's also Hitler's birthday. And between those two numbers, it was incentive enough for one person, and in this case, we believe two, to go berserk. We'll have more coming up a little bit later in this half hour. My hearing is impaired somewhat at this point, Harold, but we want to tell you a little bit about a story involving big business, big money, and big fun. If you're a young teenager, especially a girl, the zone here at the Glendale Galleria is designed specifically for you. Tonight was the grand opening, and they are calling it a success. And eventually sweeping everyone up in the thrill of seeing them live. Now it's up to the zone to keep the energy and the spending high. I've just gotten my voice back from all that screaming, and my heart has slowed down enough to be able to tell you that the zone is open 6 days a week. It'll be open until 9 p.m. After that hour, of course, most teenagers should be home in bed, so they picked the perfect time to close down. I'm sure they're not back at that hour. Live in Glendale, David Jackson, ABC-7 Eyewitness News. Harold and Laura, back to you.
Oh, David, you still got a little bit of the teeny bopper in you. We saw that tonight. Thank you.
It was a long 30 hours for hundreds of passengers on Philippine Airlines. Their flight was canceled earlier last evening with very little explanation for those particular passengers, and it led to a situation where they had threatened to storm the ticket counter.
They were told that their 747 could not take off, that there was an equipment problem, but unfortunately they were told very little else. That was last night at 10 p.m., and all 437 passengers on Philippine Airlines stayed in the Bradley International Terminal until 4 a.m. this morning. They were then sent to a hotel and told to come back by 2 this afternoon. That's when the real waiting began and the tempers ran short.
They don't have no information what we are doing, what we are going to do, what we are doing, and we heard that it's going to be 11 o'clock, but the parts for the plane is not even here.
LAX police were called in as the crowd demanded answers and got none from Philippine Airlines management. Finally, the airline asked Eyewitness News to step behind the counter to learn that parts were on order to fix their plane. Then we were asked to explain that to the passengers.
Unless you're checked in, everybody's checked in?
Yeah.
So you're all done with that. You can eat, you can hang out, you go home. I don't know, whatever you can do. But you're on that flight that'll leave at 11:30, 12 at the latest. But as far as they can tell, there's nothing that would hold it up beyond that.
We'll be flying tonight. Is there a way we could get compensated for the inconvenience that is suffered for 2 days?
That you ask them? Maybe. I don't know. They paid last night for the hotel? Maybe.
LAX police had urged the airline to have Eyewitness News speak to the angry passengers, fearing if airline personnel did it, the scene could deteriorate into a fight. As other Philippine Airlines passengers arrived for tonight's scheduled flight, last night's passengers who were in the terminal threatened to block their way. But slowly, the two flights formed one enormous line, as managers still refused to speak to any in the crowd. Police spokesman said the situation of having news people talk to passengers directly is unusual, but with airport tension already high, they said that may have been the best way to keep the passengers calm.
Now, the fact that this situation developed the way that it did shows you just how delicate things can often be here at the airport. The airport police have again thanked us for speaking directly to the passengers. They said the last thing that they wanted to see was any kind of open or loud confrontation between passengers and desk personnel inside the international terminal. Incidentally, neither one of those Philippine Airlines flights has yet taken off. They've been delayed for a little while longer. We don't exactly know how long. Live at LAX, David Jackson, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Leslie, back to you.
Good job, David.